Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, and as always, joined in by Peter Baracchini and Dayton Reimer. Peter, how's it going? We've got another week in the books, getting closer and closer. Well, I mean, every week gets closer to the draft. And lots of, it's about halfway, well, more than halfway through the seasons now, and getting closer to the playoffs for a lot of guys. And yeah, some excitement coming. So how's it going?
Yeah, we're already halfway through the season right now. It's quick. It's crazy how quickly time has flown by. But yeah, we're already gearing up for the draft content right now. I'm getting some stuff prepped up, and yeah, we're about to be in full swing after the Four Nations. So yeah, it's getting close.
For sure. And Dayton, how's it going?
It's also good. Yeah. I don't know. We're flying by watching Blades games, writing reports on Blades games, kind of, or more so on players, but it's been really fun. The only problem is the Blades haven't been winning lately, and that's been a little tougher. Their spirits are high. They're doing as much as they can with what they have, and they know it's tough, but yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, well, you trade away some of your better players, it kind of gets a bit tough.
Arguably, their best.
Their best, yeah.
Like four of their best players were gone.
Yeah.
Um,
So, of course, they're going to struggle
yeah.
a little bit. All right. Well, on this episode, we're going to be talking farm systems. And because we just had, all these articles come out really fast and furious in mid-season. Our Logan updates all these articles. And the farm system rankings is the latest one that I think is the last one of the series that gets updated. So, and this covers all the different prospect pools throughout the NHL. We got, some changes actually in this midseason update. There's a new number one farm system. So we're going to talk about that. So let's dive right in and talk about these farm systems. And, the Chicago Blackhawks are now the number one ranked farm system, taking over from the San Jose Sharks, who dropped to fourth. Probably because a lot of their top guys are now in the NHL. But, and the Chicago Blackhawks have been adding, of course, in the draft and all that stuff. So let's talk about the risers first. I've already mentioned one of them. Peter, I'll start with you. What did you see from this update in the farm system rankings overall for some of the teams that have kind of risen up halfway through the season?
Yeah, usually in the case where this usually happens mid-season, obviously you're going to see a big rise and a big drop-off with some teams because, as you mentioned, San Jose is seeing two of their prospects make the jump already. Will Smith, obviously, Macklin Celebrini making his mark. But then again, you're going to see some take that big step down where, it is like the San Jose Sharks. It is like the Buffalo Sabres. Yeah, I mean when you look at risers, obviously, I think the one thing that stands out too is the Montreal Canadiens. They were seventh. They moved up to number three. And I think that's always in large part due to the play of Ivan Demidov, who is just like an absolute human highlight reel. Every single day you see something from the KHL and it's Demidov, just like, Demidov hat trick, Demidov with a slick goal kind of thing. So obviously that is a big pick up for him. But even so, you're looking at other names like Michael Haig, who's showing his offensive upside. He had a really nice, shootout or penalty shot goal where he just absolutely deked out the goaltender and just absolutely made him look foolish. Owen Beck, his two-way game is very surprising, not surprising, but it's, he's adapting very well every single season that he plays, and he just keeps on adapting very well. The Minnesota Wild, you look at them, they moved from 5 to number 2, and again, you look at names like Jesper Wallstedt, Zibuim, Danilo Yurov. They got a deep system, and you're not even mentioning Riley Heidt in there as well, who's, I know we mentioned him last week when we did the 100 prospects, how he just continues to tear it up no matter where he's at. league wise. And I think this is probably going to be his last year in the WHO. He's going out with a bang. And next year, when he makes that jump to the pro level, the AHL, most likely he's definitely going to make his presence felt there. So yeah, you see a lot of fallers, but the teams rising up that were a little bit lower than before, but their top prospects are having a big impact, which basically bumps them up further up.
Yeah, the Montreal Canadiens for sure going from 7 to 3. And yeah, it's because of these top guys standing out. And the Canadiens have always been in the top 10 lately. And that's because of, picking in the higher part of the draft. And then some of their other guys, really impacting the prospect pool. So yeah, Montreal for sure. Minnesota, I mean, they're one of the top teams in the NHL right now. And a lot of these prospects aren't even in the NHL yet. And it's great to have that system when you're a top team already and you just kind of keep moving through. And that's, I think, the ideal thing for most teams you want is so you don't have a drop off. You just keep adding your prospects in. Dayton, what did you see from risers that maybe want to add on to this here?
From risers, I was just almost going to talk about a faller, but I imagine we'll get to that in a second. I'll go to the other end of the list. Being one of the Senators writers, I noticed that the Senators jumped up significantly, which was fantastic. They used to be second worst. Now they're 24th, and that's a significant jump. They still lack, I think, a lot of depth. Probably depth is the right word.
Mm-hmm.
But their high end or their top end is showing off to be quite strong. Carter Yakimchuk is one of the better offensive defensemen in the WHL, despite only being 18 years old. Levi Merilainen has shown to be very good as a young goalie, stepping in for the injured Linus Ullmark. Zach Ostapchuk has been slowly kind of developing into this really strong defensive forward, and he's really filled out with the injuries that have happened in Ottawa. Stephen Halliday, that's a guy who's been really good with the Belleville Senators this year. Very streaky. There are weeks where he won't score a thing, and then he'll score 7 points in 2 games or something like that. But he's showing that he can be a producer at, higher levels. And I think that was one of the big concerns when he was drafted as an overager. So seeing that team jump up as much as they have, I think is a really good sign for the future, especially when they had nothing before last draft, essentially. You could even throw in a few other guys like Blake Montgomery, who's tearing it up in the OHL, or Lucas Ellinas, another guy who's scoring so many goals with the Kitchener Rangers. Javon Moore. He's in the USHL right now, and he's doing really well. Those all guys from the same draft. Steve Staios has come in and said this team needs a fix, especially in their futures, and he did it. That's exactly where you want to be with that kind of team.
Yeah, jumping from 31 to 24 is actually a pretty good jump. For a team that's, I mean, they're still in the bottom half, but anything is better than dropping. I mean, you can only drop one more, but and some of the other teams, Maple Leafs didn't really move anywhere. I mean, they went up 2 spots. I mean, that's it's not really that big of a deal.
No.
The Canucks went a little bit up. They went to 17th, and that's because their prospects are doing quite well. Again, getting a boost. So, I mean, some of the teams are maybe little movement, but yeah, seeing where the Ottawa Senators kind of rising up is a good sign for the future for a team that's wanting to make the playoffs more often. And if some of the prospects can kind of come in and help that out later on, would be great too.
I feel like we should also mention
the
Washington Capitals, who jumped up from 21 to 12.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We talked about all of their prospects last week. Don't need to go into depth on those guys, but I think they have a very underrated prospect pool, because all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, no, they have so many really, really, really good guys.
Yeah.
I was about to say, all four players looked really good at the World Junior Championship, but then again, 3 out of the 4 of that top 5 only made it. So I guess you could
Yeah.
wonder who was omitted from that list and is basically, sticking it to Team Canada right now. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was just about to chime in too about the Washington Capitals, how they jumped up 21-12, and obviously the tournaments from their top prospects really helped out in a big way.
Mhm. Yeah, that top 100 prospects, we could have just did a Washington
All
Capitals.
Washington Capitals. Yep.
No, they're impressive, and the thing is, like I said, they need to, because a lot of their core is aging, and they're trying to kind of transition. Of course, once Ovechkin's gone, you're going to have someone to step in, and they have a few guys that, of course, not going to be Ovechkin, but to kind of create a new core of players, and they already got a bit started in Washington. It's just some of these other guys are going to come in too. All right, well, Dayton, you wanted to talk about some fallers, so let's go to the other end of teams that fell in this farm system ranks. I mean, we already mentioned the San Jose Sharks dropping from 1. They're still a pretty high ranked prospect pool, but they are no longer at the top, and that's because they're great. Their great prospects are now NHL players. But anyone else you want to mention as significant fallers here?
Yeah, I always find followers fascinating, especially when it's like nothing really changed, but they really dropped.
Mm,
And at least in this list, it's a lot of guys, or a lot of teams, I should say, really jumped up, right? You've got the Montreal Canadiens showing off some really, really good prospects. The Chicago Blackhawks have a significant chunk of gold medal winners at the World Juniors.
mm,
Um, and I think the combination of underperforming prospects and other teams just performing better kind of resulted in the Buffalo Sabres.
mm,
So they were second. Now they are seventh. To me, that's a pretty big drop. And it's not like they graduated a lot of guys from last
mm,
list, right? Consta Helenius is one of their top prospects right now. He's doing great. But they've still got Devin Levi. They've still got Isaac Rosen, Noah Osland, Anton Wahlberg. Those guys have been in there for a couple of seasons already.
mm.
And is it that they're just not progressing to the point where the Sabres are able to use them? Like they were obviously comfortable enough to let Matthew Savoy go.
Mm,
So I don't know. That's an interesting thing because I wouldn't say any of those guys are underperforming, right? Like they're not doing poorly.
mm.
So I don't know. Maybe it's just the case of everyone else is stepping up and the Sabres as a team are kind of falling apart again.
Mm.
Um, and that's just not a great place for a top prospect to be.
One thing with the Sabres is that Yuri Kulik has done really well. I mean, he's now playing, I believe, on the top line in Buffalo now, and he's been scoring quite a bit. So, I mean, that there's one prospect coming in. I
Hmm.
mean, I think Roseanne has to get more opportunity in the NHL. He's been doing really well in the AHL. I think they need to start integrating some of these prospects maybe a bit quicker. And I think it's a combination, like you said, of some teams just bumping up. And of course, when teams go up, some teams have to go down. So that's just how it works.
Hmm.
But yeah, the Sabres are, like I said, they got to start having these prospects actually contribute to the team to maybe break this playoff list streak, which is it's probably going to be 15 years coming up here. So unless they drastic turn around the last 30 or 40 games here, not likely. All
Yeah.
right, Peter, what do you think about the fallers here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest obvious ones is the Anaheim Ducks going from top 3 all the way to 14. And there's a big reason why. You Cutter Gaucher's already graduated. Leo Carlson has graduated. Olin Zellweger has graduated. So basically, there's guys that would normally be in the top 5, top 3 of a prospect system graduating to the next level. That happens. Obviously, maybe there are a lot of their depth pieces that they've drafted in the past are still within the system and still, pretty decent upside. Becca Seneca being the only, kind of blue chip prospect that they have. Steven Solberg, I mean, I could go on and on about how mean, aggressive, and tenacious that he is on the back end. I was a big fan of his in his draft year. So, to have him in the system as kind of like that mid-range defensive prospect, second, third pairing kind of guy really checks off a lot of boxes for them as a lot of their depth players start to come up and support the top players that are already getting those opportunities right now. And I even forgot to mention even Tristan Luneau too. I think he's already been past that level as well. But yeah, I think with Seneca still in the fold within their system, it gives them not obviously it's a big drop from before. He's the only big name that's got a lot of upside and potential as we've seen what he's doing in the OHL right now, how he's tearing it up. Um, how basically he was Team Canada's best player at the selection camp, gets sent back again. Don't know why, but the fact that he's still himself, still producing, still focusing in on his game, and still playing the way that he normally does, being that aggressive power forward, right wing, getting in on the attack, using his hands, using that shot that's developed very very well. It's a big step for him. Obviously, a big drop for the Ducks, but they still got a lot of potential and names like Seneca, Solberg, Gaucher, even Noah Warren too. Again, big fan of Noah Warren, so he's one of those depth guys that's going to move up as well. One other team that's kind of a smaller drop from 5 spots down, 18 to 23 is the Los Angeles Kings. Not necessarily a major one, but one that I think that is still worthy of being in the top 10 because of the performance that we saw from Carter George at the World Juniors. I thought there was no doubt that he was their best player in net. And the one time that they actually get steady goaltending Canada, their offense dries up.
Yes.
You can't overlook the fact that Liam Greentree, he's having another strong season. 79 points in 45 games, 1.76 point per game average right now. Pretty damn impressive for the Windsor Spitfires. Cohen Zemer, who is always the lethal goal scorer in the WHL, still putting the puck in the net, 26 this season. You also look at guys and players that are like the step below. Samuel Fagamo, who's, basically got a the Cy Young stat sheet going on, 21 goals and 8 assists. So, he's got that going for him in the AHL. And the AHL, is a pretty tough league. I know that he's been in the league a little bit longer, 24, but hopefully this is something that could boost him up a little bit more. Maybe he's fallen down that depth chart, but he still has that, goal scoring potential that could make him be a factor within the middle six of the LA Kings potentially in the future. Then there's Francesco Pinelli. The playmaker, the creativity that he possesses is absolutely fun to see. There's also Ryan Comey too, who is one player that I took note of during the draft last season. I don't think I had him in my top 128 on my final list, but I did keep a little bit of a note on him as to being, this guy has some underlying potential of what he can do in terms of being a goal scorer, getting into the lanes, being aggressive. He has that work ethic and drive. Right now, he has 23 points in 22 games for the University of New Hampshire, and I believe it is his freshman year. So, no, sorry, second season. This was 2 seasons ago when he was with the Sioux City Musketeers. I'm gonna have to go back and double check 2023 as opposed to 2024, but 31 points last season, 23 this year, and it looks like he's still on pace to be a point per game player. So a lot of underrated names and a lot of players that definitely have a lot of potential to vault their way up, depth chart and basically catch the eye of, the team in the future. So, maybe a slight drop too, maybe, a couple spots, but to warn maybe 5, I don't know. I still think that they're probably worthy of being within the top 20 or just outside of it.
Yeah, the Kings still have a really good prospect pool. Like I said, Greentree has had a really good season. I think a bit of a steal where they got him, looking at what he's done this season for the Spitfires. So, a little bit of a drop. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the other teams rising. I mean, that could be the reason for that too. So, but yeah, really solid team. Again, a playoff team. That they have a really solid prospect pool coming too.
I just want to add in, I did have Ryan Comey in my top 128 for the 2023 draft. So he was on my list.
There you go. Okay, before we move on to update of the Calder race, I want to get your guys' most underrated prospect pool. Now, we did mention the Washington Capitals. You can pick them, of course. But Dayton, what is your most underrated prospect pool of these 32 teams here?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do kind of want to pick the Washington Capitals because it does feel like when I
Yeah.
was going through that list of top 100 players, it's like, oh, this is one of my favorite guys here. Oh, yeah, that's a Capitals pick. Oh, it's another favorite guy. Oh, that's a Capitals pick. I forget that they have all of these
Mm.
guys. Um, and as a quick reminder for our listeners here, Ryan Leonard, Cole Hudson, Andrew Cristall, Eric Smatiko, um, Tarek, Tariq Parasic, like that's just their top five.
Mm.
Um, that's already a fantastic group. They've also got Ilya Protas, I think he's been showing up in the NHL a little bit this year. I'm getting a lot of my names mixed up, but pretty sure he's been having a pretty strong rookie season. Um, yeah, like I don't know. There's a lot to like in that prospect pool. And with how the Capitals are doing, like they're one of the best teams in the NHL. That's I don't know, it feels like that it feels unfair. You know? Like that shouldn't be the case. Like, oh, you're a good team, you have a bad prospect pool. But no, they have both. And that's yeah, annoying. So I think that's why they're my top underrated prospect pool. 'Cause
Yeah, Ilya Protas is Alexei Protas's brother. So
that's
Alexei
who it is.
Protas is the one that's in the NHL
Yeah,
right now. He's having a great season. He's got 20 goals
that's what I'm getting
after
to.
just
Yeah,
six
thank you.
last season. And they did draft his brother as well. So and he is having a pretty good season in the OHL as well
You
too.
can blame
So
my dyslexia on that one.
I had to double check too
Yeah,
because I'm like,
thank
okay,
you.
which one's in the NHL?
Which Protus is with Washington? Oh, they're both. Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ilya Protas got 74 points in 41 games. So yeah, his brother's doing quite well
Doing all right. Yeah.
too. Yeah, their prospect pool is pretty good. Like I said, they need it to be good, really. I mean, for the team that they've got, yes,
Mhm.
they've got a great team right now, but there's a lot of older guys, and I mean, maybe not as much as before because TJ Oshie is not there anymore. Nicholas Backstrom's not there anymore. You're looking at guys like Connor McMichael, Alexei Protas, already two guys that are establishing themselves in that core. So I mean, they do got a makings of a core right now. It's just you got to get Ryan Leonard in there, and they've got a pretty good succession plan to Ovechkin. So um, we'll see how it all goes. All right, Peter, who is or what is your most underrated prospect pool?
I still feel like there's not a lot of talk going the St. Louis Blues way. I mean, Jimmy Snuggerud, Adam Jiricek, Dalibor Dvorsky, Otto Stenberg, Theo Lindstein. I think Dvorsky is obviously their top prospect within the system. Just the upside and potential that he has, the skill set that he brings. Snuggerud, that highly gifted power forward. That guy has a lethal shot from in the middle of the ice. Jiricek was a great add on that back end. They took a bit of a risk considering he didn't play at all last season, but the potential remains as a highly mobile, engaging defender. And obviously, Stenberg and Lindstein, when they were taken in the first round in 2023, one's a creative two-way center, the other's got a potential to be a steady puck moving defender on the back end. So I think that's a great recipe for success, and it's not getting a lot of attention
Mhm.
that I think it should at this point because they have a lot of those boxes checked out for or checked off in terms of filling up, important roles within that top six, within your top four on the back end. And I think these are going to be very, very key contributors for them in the future. So that's one system that I feel like is not getting enough attention that really should.
Yeah, the Blues have quite a few really good prospects as well. You mentioned a few of them there. Even coming into the NHL, I know Bolduc's not technically a prospect anymore, but he's been really good in the NHL this season. They traded Perunovic for some interesting, I don't know why, for a conditional pick. I mean, I thought he was doing pretty well, but I guess he hasn't gotten a lot of ice time since they got Cam Fowler and got Broberg in the offseason, so maybe took his spot away. But yeah, I was kind of surprised Prunovich getting traded because he was one of their top guys in the prospect pool. No longer a prospect, but yeah. But the Blues, I think, just they have a pretty solid prospect pool as well. All right, let's turn to the Calder Trophy race. These guys are not prospects anymore, but we always like talking about the young guys in the Calder Trophy. So, Peter, I'll start with you. We've talked about the Calder Trophy this season already, but there are some guys that have kind of maybe pulled away in this conversation. Lane Hutson currently leading all rookies in points with 39. Got Macklin Celebrini in second with 36, Michkov with 34. There's a bit of a drop off after that with Stankoven going 24 points and Will Smith rounding it out with 21. So, who is your front runner for the Calder Trophy? And then you can give the other finalists right now in your mind.
I'm just gonna say one finalist is definitely Matvei Michkov, and like obviously it is a three-horse race right now. I think it's Hudson, Celebrini, Michkov, 1, 2, 3. I think those are going to be your finalists when the award selection is going to happen. Michkov, again, I mean, the production has kind of tailed off, but his play at 5-on-5 has been very, very noticeable. He's still making an impact. He's still generating shots. Kind of bad puck luck, really, basically the ebbs and flows that you need to go through as a rookie. And I think he's, having that right mindset. I think he's doing a great job of handling himself during some of these, stretches where things aren't going his way. And that's what you need to do. You need to have that mindset, especially as a young player coming into this league. You can't get too rattled. And I think he's doing a great job being composed. But I think it ultimately comes down to Lane Hudson and Celebrini. And I think when we talked about this at the beginning of the season, I think Dayton, again, you brought up the point where, or Matt too, if a defender is going to hit 50 points, that should guarantee basically the Calder Trophy because that's happened in the past, right? Like we talked about that with Cale Makar and everything. If Lane Hudson does hit 50 points, I can't see it in a situation where maybe he does lose it, but I think it's ultimately his because you hardly ever see rookie defenders come in and have the impact that he has, like he did he has on the Montreal Canadiens, like possibly getting 50 points right now. I'm going to check EP's, projection because we all love the projected stat numbers as always on here. He is on pace for 65 points.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can overlook that and say, maybe give it to Celebrini. Although Celebrini has played 8 less games because he did deal with an injury and he's only 3 points behind. Everyone is probably going to also look at the plus minus. I'm not even going to look at plus minus because it's not worth dignifying that with a response at this point. Because then if plus minus is going to be a good indicator, then you might as well just give it to someone else further down the list. But whatever. Yeah. I digress. You look at the impact that all three of them are having. They're both producing at even strength. They're both producing on the power play. They're both making their impact felt. And, you look at the time on ice too. Lane Hudson's carrying the load 22 minutes a night as a rookie too. I think that kind of pushes him a little bit over Celebrini because of the fact that, he's being used in a lot of situations, especially heavily at 5-on-5 on the power play. Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to those two. I think that if Lane Hudson surpasses that 50-point mark, he definitely deserves to win it, and it's rightfully so. But then again, you can make the same case of Celebrini as he's been, arguably the Sharks' best player overall, despite being a rookie himself. And the way that he's scoring goals and the way that he's finding the back of the net is absolutely impressive. And he just makes everyone around him so much better too, whether it is, other players that are already pros as well, and they're taking note as well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenging finish, but I'm not going to be disappointed if it's either Hudson or Celebrini at this point.
Yeah, and it's to Boston College, right?
Yeah,
Boston College. Yeah. I always mix up the Boston University or Boston College. Boston College graduates kind of fighting it out for the top spot, which is kind of cool. Dayton, is it a two-horse race for you as well, or do you see maybe Michkov kind of sneaking in and grabbing it from these two guys?
I can answer no to both of those questions. So I think it is more than a two-horse race. I would put it as a three-horse race. However, I do not have Michkov as my third horse.
Okay.
I have Dustin Wolf, who I think is
Yes,
easily
yeah,
overlooked
yeah.
as one of the best rookies in the NHL right
yeah,
now.
100%.
This kid is probably one of the better goalies in the NHL right now. 27 games, a 916 save percentage, 18 wins, 2 shutouts with the Calgary Flames, helping them become a playoff team. Didn't see
Yeah.
that coming at the
No.
beginning of this year. He's been fantastic, and he is doing wonders for all of the little goalies out there. He's only 6 foot, which taller than me, but still a little goalie for some reason. Um, and he's been a winner at every level he's played at. This guy knows how to steal games, and he's doing that in the NHL again. He needed a little bit of, time to get used to the grind, I guess. Played 17 games last year, looked okay. This year he looks much better.
Mhm.
So to me, it is between Wolf and Hudson as my rookie of the year, and Celebrini is third. I think he just hasn't, like, he's been incredible. But has he been enough to be like transforming the San Jose Sharks into anything more than what everyone expected them to be? Not really. No,
Mhm.
they're still the worst team in the league, by a significant margin. They've only got 11 wins. That's 3 less wins than, or 2 less wins, I should say. The Blackhawks are down there too. Um, but it's like it's just one guy, right?
Mhm.
His level is not pushing the Sharks into a place where they could be dangerous. Where I would argue that Hudson and Wolf are doing that. The
Yeah.
Canadians are
True. Yeah.
significantly better than I think we expected because they have a dynamic playmaker on the back end. And the Flames are, like I said, inching closer to a playoff spot because they've had a little bit of good luck and they've also had some real good consistency in net. Because who do they have behind him? Dan Vladar
Mhm.
hasn't been fantastic, hasn't been playing a whole bunch either. And I wanted to go back and look to see what it would take for a goalie to win the Rookie of the Year. I love looking for trends, like you mentioned. It's almost always if a defenseman hits 50 points as a rookie, he will win. Almost. There is a few exceptions where Aaron Ekblad won it with 39 points. Sure. Okay. I guess he was 18 and he did really well. I can't figure out a reason why that happened. Barrett Jackman won it in 2000 or something like that, 2001, right around there. And he only had 19 points, but no other player had over 50. It
Yeah, it's
was
a weak class. Yeah.
very weak
Yeah.
class. And I guess given
I
to
think that's the only exception where
strongest.
if it maybe was it a strong rookie class, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good rookie class. So I think for goalies, it's got to be 30 wins.
Mm.
So that Steve Mason, who's the last goalie to win it, had 33 wins in 2009, 0809. Before him, you had Andrew Raycroft, who won it with 29 wins. However, he had a 926 save percentage, and the next highest scoring rookie was Michael Ryder with 63 points, which is
Mm.
pretty good. But again, that's not a point total that's going to transform a team, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah.
A 926 save percentage
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Um, and before that, there was Evgeny Nabokov, who had 32 wins, so another 30 winner.
Mm.
Martin Brodeur, 27 wins in 93, 94. Jason Arnott had, I think, 63 points in that season. But clearly, Brodeur was the right choice, being the most winning goalie of all time.
Yeah.
Before that, a lot of 30 winners. Belfour had 43. Ken Dryden had 39. Tony Esposito had 38. Roger Crozer had 40. Glenn Hall had 30. So you kind of needed 30 wins.
Mhm.
And goalies who got close were also just a few wins short of that 30. Stuart Skinner, 29 wins, came in second. Um, Jimmy Howard had 37 wins as a 25-year-old, so he also came in
Yeah.
second. Jordan Bennington came in second with 24 wins. So lots of guys who were almost there but didn't hit that threshold. So I think if uh, Lane Hudson can hit 50 points and Dustin Wolf can hit 30 wins, it's going to be a real interesting split to see who that goes to.
I uh I always forget goalies in the Calder race
Yeah.
because it's very rare.
It's very rare. Yeah.
Goalies, they have to be exceptional to win the
Hmm.
Calder, especially
30
when
wins.
you're looking at the forwards and a defenseman like Hudson, what he's doing. But Wolf definitely has put himself in the running for it. Rupert, who writes about writes about the Flames for the Hockey Writers here. He actually says he should be in the conversation for the Hart Trophy. I think it's a little over the top, but that's I don't know. Like you take him off the Flames,
Yeah.
where are they? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the definition of MVP in my
Hmm.
mind, right? Take the guy off the team, they're horrible. Um, Definition, Quinn Hughes on the Vancouver Canucks. Take Quinn Hughes off the Canucks. They're not a good team. Especially this season. Not a good team. But yeah, I mean, Wolf definitely is in the running for the Calder for sure. I'm gonna say the same. I think Hudson's probably is my front runner right now. Dustin Wolf would probably be just behind him a little bit. Um, but I think it's gonna be between those two guys for sure because of how much they've impacted their teams and what they've done to maybe influence where they are. I mean, because the Flames and the Canadians, I think take them off those teams, they're probably not in a playoff race. I mean, you take away Hudson's what he's changed really the defense for the Canadians. I think they've become a lot more dangerous, and maybe they've missed that in the past. But yeah, it's an interesting race. I think at the beginning we were like, I don't know, did we say Celebrini was going to run away with it at the beginning of the season? I don't think so. I think it was
I
between
think
these
we
top.
were, yeah, I think we were more in the realm of Hudson possibly being the front runner because of the fact that Celebrini was on San Jose. Would it actually
Yeah,
move the needle? But he is standing out in a big way. So you could always make that argument that he was always going to be in the running for it. Just don't know if he's going to win it.
yeah. For sure. We'll see how it all goes. I mean, three players definitely are big in it. I mean, looking at some other impressive rookies, got Logan Stankoven kind of slowed down. He only has 24 points this season. It's not crazy. Will Smith at 21, he's kind of turned it around from his slow start. Cutter Gauthier, same thing. He went for a huge stretch of time where he couldn't score a goal.
Mhm.
But he's kind of turned that around. Marco Casper has been pretty impressive. He's up there. Emil Heineman, very good in Montreal as well. It's kind of a really good checking line guy. Um, yeah, Peter, just before we end here, any other rookies? I mean, I just mentioned it quickly, a few there, but anyone else that's kind of really impressed you that probably won't be in the running for the Calder, but has had a good season?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned him basically everyone. I think Jackson Blake has fit in very, very well with the Carolina Hurricanes as well. Zach Bolduc, he's looked good at times. Yuri Kulik with the Buffalo Sabres. Um, some guys that are outside the top 10 that are, still carving their way through again, adjustment period. But when you see them hit the score sheet and when you see them have a big impact, it's always a good reassurance that, they're going to be important players for them in the future. So, yeah, Blake, Bolduc, Kulik, coincidentally, they're 12, 13, 14 in rookie scoring. Um, but yeah, no, I think those guys are, well up there where maybe in a better position, kind of like maybe not so further down the lineup where maybe if they were in a better spot, they probably could have been a little bit more impactful. But I've really enjoyed watching them play throughout the year.
Sure, yeah, like you said, really strong rookie class, Dayton. You said that, right? It is. I mean, there's quite a few really good guys in here. Dayton, anyone else you want to kind of give a shout out to that's probably not in the race for the Calder?
Yeah, I'll shout out Levi Marilainen again.
Yeah, he's been good.
Mhm.
He's been doing fantastic. Like he doesn't have the games, I don't think, to make a real run at it, but he's also got two shutouts in the short amount of time that he's been in. He's really kind of stabilized a very shaky Senators team
Mhm.
in a short stretch that really needed it, he came in when they were most vulnerable. They needed somebody to take over a big role that Linus Ullmark left. And who knows how long he's going to be out. Like that's a really, really tough blow for the Senators.
Mhm.
So they were kind of scrambling, especially with Anton Forsberg, who has been okay as of late, but inconsistent throughout his entire career. And you can't rely on somebody like that to play significant games. And so having Meriläinen come in and just be very consistent, I think has really helped the Senators. Without him, are they a playoff team? I mean, with him, are they a playoff team? That's a fantastic question that cannot be easily answered. Um, yeah, I think he's been really, really good. Uh, if he had more games, I think he'd be in the running. But as of now, no, he's just another good rookie to add to this really good class.
For sure, yeah, being unexpected too, because Matt Sogard would probably be the guy you'd think of coming in and potentially doing it, but I mean, he's dealt with injuries as well too this season. So, goaltending would be good if they were healthy. Not the guys, right?
Oh
Especially
yeah.
Allmark. But yeah, he's stepped in and kind of filled that gap. All right. Well, that's the Calder race. We'll revisit it in couple months and see where it is at, and if that someone else is pulled even further away. I think it's probably going to be this way again. These guys. I don't think anyone else is going to come in and blow anyone's socks off, but we'll talk about it again. All right, let's finish the show and do our prospects of the week. We haven't done one in a while, so Peter, I'll start with you. Who's your prospect of the week?
Before I get to it, I just want to do a quick fact check as well. Celebrini and Hudson were on Boston University.
The university. See,
So
see how
yeah,
I mixed up that one too?
it happened to me too. So yeah, it is really awkward how it's like Boston College, Boston University, but yeah,
I
it
thought it
is.
sounded wrong. Yeah, it's Boston
Yeah,
University. They're both on it. Yeah.
yeah. So back on topic. My prospect of the week is a draft eligible forward, and I surprisingly I haven't talked a lot about the QMJHL this year. Usually there is always a few prospects drafted, undrafted, and I always like to talk about has always caught my attention. Sorry, one player that is constantly grabbing my attention this year, and this is throughout the year as well. And I'm really happy about this because a lot of people are also taking note of him as a first round pick this year, and that's Bill Zonand from the Rio Noranda Huskies. Um, just lighting it up in the QMJHL and scoring. He's fifth overall, tied with fellow draft eligible QMJHLer Caleb Desnoyers with 62 points, 3 points ahead of Justin Carbonneau as well, where I have Desnoyers in the top 10. Carbonneau is the top 20, and Zonin is within my top 25, basically, or starting to move up the list very much. I think he was below that. I think he was around 28th, 29th in my January rankings, but it's definitely going to move up as well. And I'm really happy that people are taking note of him because he is a highly gifted and very skilled and speedy power forward. You see it in his play. The skating may be a little bit choppy, but it looks like he's running on the ice every single time. He's got good agility. He's got good speed. The hands that he possesses, the way he's able to maneuver in tight spaces and find the open lanes, making himself available, the way he's able to work give and goes. He's just very, very smart. He's got the ability to drive the net. He's got a powerful shot. He's a whole package offensively. I'm really happy that he continues to exceed or not exceed my expectations, but he continues to match it. And every single time I see him, I just come away a little bit more impressed every single time. So, surprisingly enough, he builds on it is the first QMJHLer that is my prospect of the week. But I'm very happy to say that if it was going to be one player, it was going to be him because he constantly keeps on getting my attention.
Yeah, I mean the Q I think has a few really good prospects in this draft, which they haven't had or they didn't have last season. But yeah, I think there's going to be a couple, at least a couple first rounders this time. All right, Dayton, who do you got as your prospect of the week?
I'm also going to go for a draft eligible player, but he is an overager who is starting to generate a little bit of interest, and that is Austin Elliott for the London Knights.
Mhm.
Didn't start the season with the London Knights. He actually started the season with, believe it or not, the Saskatoon Blades. But as a 20-year-old, they chose to release him. He was never going to compete for minutes with their starter, Evan Gardner, who won, or not won, but was one of the best rookies of the year last season. So that they were going to run with him. You can't really rely on a 20-year-old as a backup. That's just not really how it works with WHL and CHL, eligibility rules. So they chose to release him. And, it's tough to see a guy who's been there for 4 years leave.
Mm.
But the London Knights said, "Hey, we'll take you." He did pretty well in his few stint replacing Gardner as he was with the Columbus Blue Jackets for training camps. He went 3-0 with the Blades to start the season, and then went over to the OHL and is currently 20-0. The guy has not lost a game since playing this season. He's also got a 916 save percentage too. That's pretty good. Yeah, he's I think making himself known as a potential overage pick, late round pick. Committed to UMass Lowell for next season, so he'll get some of that university experience, being one of the first to take advantage of the changing of rules. He's also been on NHL radars before. He was invited to the Toronto Maple Leafs camp last season in 2023. So teams are starting to pay attention. Definitely more so because the London Knights are one of the best junior teams, with their records. You can't really get better than their program. Yeah, it's really great to see a guy who couldn't find a place in Saskatoon find success elsewhere and prove that, yes, I am a great goalie. I am a great player. Because that's what you always want to hope when you let a guy go. It's like, this isn't the end. You can still find success. And Austin Elliott is proving that, yes, he can still find it. If you ever find a chance, and maybe I'll have to do a little bit of digging on this as well, his story of how he just gets to playing hockey was pretty inspiring. So really hope he gets drafted, finds that next step to his dream.
Well, I mean, playing for the London Knights, they're always on the radar. They're always in the news. So I think he's gotten some attention from scouts for sure. And being 20-0 is pretty good as well. All right, my prospect of the week is a Canucks prospect, Elias Pettersson, who just made his NHL debut a couple games ago. The Canucks are 2-0 with him in the lineup, so he's maybe a little bit of a lucky charm. And he's played pretty well. He's only playing about 10, 11 minutes a night, but his first game wasn't really noticeable, which is good as a defenseman. And he had one really good rush up the ice where he took the puck all the way into the other zone, which is that's maybe not a big thing to some people, but for the Canucks, only guy that does it is Quinn Hughes. So another defenseman, seeing him do it was a good sight to see because Hughes can't play 60 minutes a night, even though love him too. But Pettersson he's of course the same name as Elias Pettersson, which is great because their first names are pronounced differently. I don't know if they did that on purpose, or if that's the case, or they're just doing it to try to differentiate. But Elias Pettersson his first two games have been pretty good. He did have a goal, a puck go in off him against the Blues, but that happens. But he's been a really good addition to the defense, even though he's not playing a ton. But anyone that can move the puck on the Canucks defense is welcome right now. So Pettersson, my prospect of the week this week. All right. Well, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Dayton, for coming on, talking prospects as always. We'll keep going as the draft gets closer and closer by the day. And after the Four Nations and trade deadline and all that stuff, we'll start going right into it, going crazy into draft coverage of all of our stuff that we usually do. Make sure to check out everything at thehockeyraiders.com with all of our prospect coverage, the Blades coverage from Dayton, of course, all of the other prospect stuff that we got going on as well. But until our next episode, we will see you next time.